We are pleased to be joined on the line by the Athletics Red Sox beat reporter. She's been kind enough to join the program previously. You can give her a follow on the socials at JC McCaffrey. Miss Jen McCaffrey joins Fitzy, Ball, and Lions here on a WEEI afternoon. Good afternoon, Jen. Thanks for the time. How you doing?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We had a whole entire different show planned out today with some Patriots, some Celtics, some Bruins, talking Four Nations, and then about an hour before the show today, the Rafael Devers bomb drops, if you will, proverbially speaking, from that little presser where he said through his interpreter and then on his own that he's not going anywhere. He doesn't want to move off the third base and didn't even rule the possibility in the immediate of a trade out of town out. So has there been any immediate fallout that you could gauge so far? I know it's only been a few hours, Jen, but any immediate fallout from Devers' comments?
I wouldn't say immediate fallout. I do think, Alex Cora has known Rafael Devers for, since November 2017. I think he knew that this was going to ruffle Devers' feathers. But the team has to make decisions based on how well players are performing. And if, Devers doesn't like it, they're going to have to figure something out. I think there is a path to kind of talking Devers into a DH role at some point. The other part of this that I think got a little bit lost in the mix is Devers, ended the season last year on the IL with shoulder soreness and didn't really have much of a chance to ramp up his throwing program over the winter. So part of me wonders if he's even going to be ready for the start of the season. Cora talked today about him starting to throw sometime next week. But he's not going to be doing anything really in the field or swinging too heavily over the course of this week. So Devers talked a little bit about that and said that, he knows he's, a veteran player and he knows what it takes to get ready. But I think that's also something that's sort of lost in the mix with sort of the surprise of him being so adamant about not moving off third base. So I would say that, yes, it was his definitiveness and his forthrightness in saying that he's not going to DH and that he's a third baseman and he was frustrated by the whole process was surprising, but he's a prideful player. I think we've all kind of known this for a while, that he takes a lot of pride in being able to post routinely, and I think everyone views him as this premier top-of-the-line hitter, and he is, obviously. But he views himself too as a third baseman, and there's going to have to, professional athletes obviously have egos for a reason because they're the best at what they do. But obviously sometimes it takes a little bit of a conversation when they're at a certain point in their career to pivot towards a different path. And you guys are mentioning David Ortiz, and that's something he had to do in his career. I asked Cora today about, is this something that Devers and Ortiz are close. And, is this something that you might ask Ortiz to talk to him about? And Cora was pretty adamant and said, this is my team. No, I have a good relationship with Devers, and we're going to figure this out. There's bumps in the road all the time, and, this is something I can handle. So we'll see if that changes. But it was definitely a different tone, I guess, in mood among the team and kind of around the team today versus yesterday when it was all smiles and, excitement with the Bregman signing. Today's a consternation and, confusion about what's going to be happening with the future of with a potentially unhappy Rafael Devers.
Yeah, Jen, could you expand on that for just a moment on the feeling, the vibe, the mood around the Red Sox that you've noticed in the wake of the Bregman signing? Have you seen guys going out of their way to introduce themselves, and kind of what's the impact of adding a player and a person of that caliber to the mix, Ben, on the feeling around Red Sox camp?
Yeah, I mean, since the news broke last week, I feel like there's kind of a lightness among the guys. Trevor Story was, almost giddy in a sense. Walker Buehler is close friends with them, owns a racehorse with them, actually, in Kentucky. There's a lot of connections with Bregman, and not even among the veteran players, but the young stars, Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, Bregman's locker is right next to them in the clubhouse. And, Cora was saying on the first day out in the backfield yesterday, Bregman was already trying to give Campbell some tips on, just footwork and whatnot at second base. So he's known as a leadership type guy. He's taken, I think, to that very quickly, and I've seen him talking at various points over the last few days with those guys, with Campbell, with Meyer, with Anthony, and just sort of kind of enmeshing himself in the team already. Following Story around a lot, just because they know each other as well. Story was a big part of, the recruiting pitch to get Bregman here. He said he, sent him several texts over the winter of just encouraging him to sign in Boston and kind of telling him what it's like. And obviously Bregman knows from having played on the other side, but I think he said it was kind of impactful to just kind of hear from guys like that of wanting him in here. So, yeah, until today, it was definitely a different mood among this team on, a very, I would say, excited and optimistic mood. And I wouldn't say that's completely gone. It's just it definitely was a little bit uncomfortable, with what Devers said today, and just having a guy of that caliber be so vocal about basically saying he's not going to do what the team wants him to do. So we'll see what effect that has on them.
We're talking with Jen McCaffrey of The Athletic. And Jen, I feel like a big piece of this Devers, Bregman, third base situation is Christian Campbell. And if he's going to be ready opening day to be able to play second base, what is your assessment? I know it's early in camp so far of his progress to this point. Do you think he's on track to be on that opening day, Ross? Do you think the organization is kind of hoping for him to be in that role to start the season?
I do think so. I mean, before Bregman signed, even thinking back to this time last Monday, the biggest storyline heading into camp was who's going to win the second base job, Campbell or Vaughn Grissom. Grissom came into camp, looking good, looking a lot stronger than he did, at the end of last year when he was sick and kind of worn down and lost a lot of weight. He looks more of the part and looks a lot stronger. So I think it really was going to be this competition between Grissom and Campbell, and I think it still is because they sound like they're going to be moving Bregman to third base. So I do think a big part of that is seeing if Campbell can kind of take the reins here and break camp with the big league club and, kind of continue the rapid progression that he showed he was capable of last year when he, introduced those swing changes that the team worked on with, and he jumped 3 levels and, was Baseball America's minor league player of the year and, is a top 100, top 10 prospect for a lot of rankings, right there alongside Roman Anthony. So, yes, I think they're very optimistic about how he's going to handle things, but I think they're also realistic of he's a young guy, and you kind of have to see how he's going to play, against major leaguers. This is his first big league camp, see how he's going to carry himself. But I do think he's been in kind of all the big league, infield drills. He's, as I said, with Bregman here, he's been kind of Bregman's shadow almost the past few days of getting some instruction and tidbits. And Cora, a few times I noticed today, was showing him different angles and things like that. So they're very heavily keeping an eye on him, coaching him, and it does seem like, he's going to be very much in the mix.
Jen McCaffrey from The Athletic here on the WEEI Afternoon Show. Earlier today, Jen, we heard from Sam Kennedy, who kind of just didn't intimate, just flat out said that he didn't think that they were done yet, that other moves could be at hand. Is there any idea exactly, are we talking something as big as like a move for a Dylan Cease or another starting pitcher, smaller moves, any other places you could possibly see them addressing if, in fact, another move or two is at hand for the Sox this spring?
Yeah, he did sort of kind of later later clarify, I don't see anything imminent or anything like that. So I think he tried to, say that they're never done. Yeah, I think he said something along the lines of, we're not done until the trade deadline or something along those lines. So I think he was trying to sound, like they were continuing to add it, and they might still add. Listen, one of the things that I think we do need to keep an eye on is they had 2 pitcher injuries this past week that also I think have gotten a little that have flown a little bit under the radar because of the Bregman stuff. Cutter Crawford is dealing with his knee injury that apparently he's had since the beginning of last year when he hurt his right knee running to cover first base, and did that in the third start of the year. So he pitched the entire year on kind of a bum knee, and saw his velocity dip late in the year. Couldn't really get the strength back, at the as the offseason progressed. And the same thing with Brian Deo. So yeah, I think there's always a possibility of that.
Jen, on the topic of the pitching, there's been a lot of conversation about the idea of a six-man rotation going into the year, just with the amount of pitching depth that the Red Sox have, assuming that everybody's healthy come opening day. Are you a fan of that idea? And if not, is there one of the starting pitchers who you could see transitioning over to the bullpen if the Red Sox don't choose to go in that direction?
I do think it's probably a smart idea to do at various points. The team has a lot of off days too, so it's going to be interesting to see how they manage this. But just given kind of how I was mentioning, Crawford dealing with this injury, Theo dealing with some shoulder soreness, and then you have guys that are coming off of injuries or past injuries. Crochet's obviously last year was his first full year in rotation, but he was previously coming off of Tommy John surgery, and he had an innings limit. Obviously, Walker Buehler didn't pitch a full year last year because he was coming off injury. And then you're looking at and same thing obviously with Lucas Giolito, who had the internal brace procedure and hasn't pitched in a whole year since 2023. So I think part of the reason they were thinking of the six-man rotation is, yes, they have six capable guys. This is before the Crawford stuff, but I think it was also a way to kind of give everyone an extra day's rest because they do have so many guys that have a history of injuries. So I'm curious to see how this is all going to work out. If Crawford isn't ready to go, they still have five guys. But then they also have a good amount of pitching depth that's in AAA that has had big league experience. Cooper Criswell is a guy that might end up in AAA because they have too many starters in the majors, and pitched several starts for them last year in key spots. But even prospects like Richard Fitz and Quinn Priester, who they got at the deadline last year, isn't a prospect quite anymore, but has big league pitching experience. So I think they have a number of guys that can kind of come up and fill in and spot start. But how they kind of map this out and work this six-man rotation, if that's what they end up doing. They don't want to give guys too much rest because on the flip side, you need guys that kind of have a consistent routine so they don't fall out of routine. So I think there's definitely a balance to all this, and how they map that all out will definitely be something that we're watching throughout the spring.
Just a few days ago, Bregmania was running wild through Red Sox Nation. We were all making October plans and thinking about firing up duck boats and how we would look sitting in that fancy chair by the fireplace with a cigar. And now there's controversy and never a dull moment once again in Red Sox Nation. For the latest and best stuff, you can always give her a follow on the X and as well as on Blue Sky.